Yo, what's up? It's your boy Michael Faze coming to you live from the Faze Cave. And today I'm going to be doing a little quick tutorial on how you can make your guitars and your vocals present in the mix when you have a breakbeat going or just a bunch of drums all at the same time and you still want a rich full vocal but also very dreamy, kind of spacey a little bit, but not too much. So yeah, let's hop into the video. Before we do, make sure that you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on any future videos. And yeah, let's get to the video. So the first thing that I want to play to you guys is an instrumental that I made for an upcoming track that I'm working on for an EP. The vocal is temporary. It's not the vocal that's going to be in the main track, but take a listen.
Let go, it's all I remember. Before we hit the ground, time stood still as 1,000 pieces fly up all around us. Shine on like glitter, girl. Let go, it's all I remember. Before we hit the ground, time stood still as 1,000 pieces fly up all around us. Shine on like glitter, girl.
Alright, so it sounds pretty good. It's nice and full. And I just want you to hear what it would sound like if the vocal had zero effects whatsoever. And the guitars. Super dry right now.
Let go, it's all I remember. Before we hit the ground, little girl. Let go, it's all I remember.
Sounds terrible. Sounds completely thin and full of nothing. So what we're gonna do to kind of help this cut through the mix a little bit is we're gonna throw on a Pro Q3. Now what I did with Pro Q3 was I adjusted some of the harsh frequencies. Now this is just a quick warning. Make sure that you turn your speaker volume down if you're going to listen to this. It's going to be very harsh frequencies. It's going to hurt your ears. So just a quick warning about that. Here we go. Mute everything else.
Let go. Before.
Now those frequencies are completely terrible, so we want to do a dynamic band on that. So whenever we're peaking at a certain point, it'll duck the volume down on that specific frequency so we don't hear it and it's more subtle and clean. If I play it without the EQ, it sounds like this.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground, time stood still as 1,000 pieces fly up all around us. Shine.
You can tell immediately that the vocal is very harsh without the EQ settings, and there's a lot of hiss and a bit of mids coming through that I didn't really want in the track, especially with the kind of voice that I'm going to be looking for later on once the song's completely written. So another thing you can do to kind of remove some of those mid frequencies is do the same dynamic band right around 200 hertz, 2 to 300, depends on the vocal and the singer. So just keep that in mind. For this one, I decided to do a band all the way down to negative 4.5, round it up to maybe 5 here, and take a listen to it solo. As you can tell, I don't want those frequencies present in the mix, so I turned them down, and I did Jesus, I'm forgetting my bands. A low cut at around 72 dB at around 146 hertz, so you can hear exactly what I'm cutting out. Those little rough sounds.
Before we hit the ground.
Just makes the vocal a lot cleaner and less muddy. And right around the 6K range, I also heard some hiss that I just didn't want in the vocal. Again, lower the volume on your speakers when you hear this. It's going to be very irritating. So just quick warning. Here we go.
Before.
Now, prior to doing that,
Let go is all I remember.
it still just had a little bit of hiss that my ears personally were sensitive to. I did a high cut as well, nothing too dramatic, because as soon as we put on the JP vocal tool, Jack Joseph, I don't know how to say the last bit, but it's an awesome plugin, and it immediately gives life to your vocals. I left the male preset on because it just gave it more power in the mix. I added a little bit of a de-esser to it so we can get those S's that were really annoying, and a bit of compression. Adjusted some of the highs. I didn't touch anything on the lows, and I adjusted some of the sensitivity so I can get something pretty decent. I don't remember if I touched any of these parameters. Usually I do, but I think I left it the way it was because it worked. So it sounds like this.
Let go is all I remember. Before.
Instantly you can tell it's just added life to the vocal.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground.
Highly recommend this plugin for any vocal. And mind you, this is an entire vocal chain. There's layers and all that going through it. Now, the one technique that I really wanted to show you the most, and this goes for the guitar and the vocal, is the Fruity Peak Controller trick, where you're taking the dry wet knob here on the reverb and the delay, and you're using it as a sidechain signal, just so you can get a nice clean sound. So let's see what it sounds like with Valhalla delay turned on.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground.
Now that sounds awesome. Without the actual link, it would sound terrible. So let's do that. Play it at full.
Let go is all I remember.
As you can tell, it's messy. It just does not sound right. You can't make out what she's saying too much. I mean, it's clear, but not too crystal clear. So the first thing you want to do is set the peak control to the actual peak setting. And then right at mapping formula, you want to set the input to inverted and then smoothing so that you can get a really nice read on the signal. Hit accept, and then it should be moving everything the way the vocal's moving.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground.
Now, to get the right setting for your vocal, you'd most likely need to go into the peak controller and adjust the settings. Usually, I like to give this rule of thumb that with the tension, it's always a smoother result when you're going to the left as opposed to the right. So just play around with the settings, see what grabs your attention, what feels right to you. There's really no right or wrong here, but as long as you get that effect where the dry signal comes in and then the wet signal comes back up, once the dry signal starts to come down, then, in my opinion, you got it right. But it's all about taste, so adjust to your own liking. Now, if you put it together with everything else, like the reverb, it should sound pretty cool, like this.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground. Time stood still as 1,000 pieces fly up all around us.
Sounds really dope. Now, the only thing I will mention as a precaution, when you put in a delay or put in a reverb, make sure that the dry wet mix on the actual plugin is set pretty low. A good range is around 30% all the way down to 20, even 15. It really depends on your liking and how wet you want the sound to be. So just experiment and see what you like. For Pro R, I tend to keep it at 30. Same thing with the delay. I like a pretty wet sound, and that's just my preference. To you is going to be completely different. And then for the last cue, I put it in linear phase mode just so we can really make sure that those frequencies that we hate don't show up, but we're not also affecting the tonality of the sound. So I turned it on, linear phase, low, and it sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good like this.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground, time stood still as 1,000 pieces fly up all around us.
All right, so let's get to the guitars. The guitars themselves were pretty cool. I just thought it needed a little bit more life. So the first thing I added was a JJP Guitars. Also, amazing plugin. You could use that or the Chris Lord Algae plugin and it'll work wonders. I did the same thing. I left it on the initial preset, tweaked a bit of the parameters, a little bit more compression, a little bit more on the high end. I don't remember if I touched the low EQ. I did touch the sensitivity. I added a little bit less warmth and more sustain. Doubler, I turned that on because it always sounds cool with guitars like this. A little bit more attack to add a little bit more bite to it. And it sounds like this. So you can tell immediately just off of the A and B that it gives your guitars life, it gives it room, space, dimension, and a nice bite to it that really snaps to your ear. So the next part, I pretty much repeated the same thing that I did with the vocal with the P controller, added my own adjustments to it, and then I wanted to add a special depth to the guitar. So in this case, I added a kilohertz bit crusher, set the rate to 16.5, and adjusted the dither, the DACQ, the bits, the quantize. Also, I can get my own personal effect. And then I attached the P controller to it, so it sounds like this. All I wanted out of it is just a little bit of distortion, something simple that doesn't take away too much from the sound other than a little bit of volume. And then the rest was delay from Valhalla. Amazing delay, highly recommended. And I used a tape format for this, and I wanted the error to be in the past, and I played around with some of the groove. So I put a fourth and then a fourth dotted just to add a little bit of a groove to it. You can hear it sounds so good with it. Next up, the Fat Filter Pro R. I used the acoustic guitar preset on there. It's fairly simple. I love the presets as is, and I just did a little adjustment on the mix. I don't think I edited anything else on this. Maybe a cue. I don't remember too far on that, but I liked it the way it was, and I got a pretty clean sound out of it. Now, I still felt it was a little bit centered, so a really nice and free plugin that I used was from Polyverse and Infected Mushroom Wider. I set it to 30% as I only wanted a little bit of width to it, and it came out just like this, nice and wide. Really nice. And one of the cool things that I like to add on here is a sidechain, especially for this sound. And I decided to throw on a shaper box too from Cable Wise. And it's a really dope plugin. I use the compressor setting for this as I have a pop kick in there, and I routed it into the processing section, into the break kick. And then through here, I could set the parameters to how I like. I set the threshold all the way down to -60. So I wanted something to hit immediately so I can tell that it was working. So let's hear it with the kick and snare. Lower that. It's a really dope sidechain, and it just worked wonders. It did exactly what I wanted. Nice, fast, easy. Didn't have to worry too much about that. I eased up on the mix so that way I can get a subtle sidechain. As you saw, once it went to 100, it went fucking nuts. So, you know, ease up on it. The last thing I wanted to do was EQ this, as I thought the sample was already good. I just wanted to add a little bit more dimension in there. So I cut out some of the low frequencies, the sub frequencies below 58 hertz. And I did an automation, so as soon as it hits the drop, it cuts out the bass at 171 hertz. So you hear that. Let me play that right here. Especially when you're mixing these guitars with 808 bass lines and a Reese bass, it's really nice to just cut out that bass energy, because everything else like the 808 and the Reese is going to take over, and you don't need the bass from the guitar anymore. Aside from that, let me set a loop right here. In the guitar, I wanted to add a little bit more on the low end for when it's not playing with the drums, and it sounds like this. I just added more body to the guitar. And the other thing that I added on here was a dynamic band going up at around 680 hertz. It sounds like this. Now I could have went the other route and just inverted that signal so I could pitch it down, but I actually really liked that frequency that was playing, so I wanted it to pop up a little bit more. That's why I intentionally did that. So it was a completely artistic thing. You don't have to do that, but if you like to do that and it sounds good to you, then why the hell not? But the next step was to set a dynamic band, but doing the opposite in those harsh frequencies that I was talking about. Gonna warn you again, so you don't blow out your speakers or whatever. Turn down the volume so you don't, you know, hurt your ears or whatever. And here we go. Horrible frequencies, and with it, it sounds very harsh. Now, if I did that too drastically, it would really warp the sound in a way that I don't want it to. So I just kept it real subtle. And then I added some brightness to the sound at around 1200. And that's how I got a full sound. Together, you get this.
Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground, time stood still as 1,000 pieces fly up all around us. Shine on like glitter, girl. Let go is all I remember. Before we hit the ground,
right, guys. That's speaking of time. That was a great segue. That's all the time that I got for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a comment on what you were able to take from this and apply to your songs. Let me know what other videos would you like me to make. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on any new content. And I'll see you guys later. Much love to my inner core family. Peace.